Welcome to Keeping It Real on Purpose. I'm your host, Edna White, and we are all struggling with certain habits. The one you swear you'll quit, the pattern you'll keep repeating, or the decision you make knowing it sabotages your goals. What if the solution wasn't willpower, but understanding the behavior code itself? Today, we're joined by someone with a truly unique perspective on the human behavior, Martha Burich. I said it right. Audience, I am getting good. Okay. Martha spent a decade as a child psychology professor, 16 years as a special education teacher, and now volunteers weekly helping people navigate recovery from substance abuse at the local jail and treatment center. Martha, thank you for bringing everything that you have to the stages of the world. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Edna. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. And the first thing I always tell everybody when I start a show is, Mom loved my brother better. So that's colored my whole life, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Martha, your journey from winning the Outstanding Professor Award truly depicts your dedication, and it's remarkable. Tell us, what is the single biggest lesson you learned about human behavior in the classroom that provided equally true in the jail?
That's such an excellent question. You know what people want? They want to be acknowledged. It's not even so much attention as they want to be appreciated. They want to be known that they do things and that people appreciate them and want them around. And so, it's really, what a lot of times with parents and spouses and relationships, the mistake they make is they criticize. And then when we criticize our children, because we think as parents we're supposed to, make them do the right thing. And what happens is they take us out of their quality world. So, we try to make our spouse be a better person, so we criticize them. Well, then the spouse says, well, back to themselves, like, well, I'm just not going to share anything with them again because they turn it back on me, or I'm not good enough. So they don't share their real feelings and things with us. And then what do? We destroy relationships.
Yeah, that's heavy. You started right in. See, I was going to take it slow and easy. You just started right in. So I know I want to explore the bridge between education and deep-seated habits. I know that. But I want you to answer my proverbial question that asks all my guests: how do you show up in the world?
How do I show up in the world? Boy, another excellent question, Edna. What do you mean? You're just jumping right in. How do I show up in the world? I show up. Yeah. I'm sick and tired of being a shy, retiring violet. And I just put my one foot in front of the other. And if I say something somebody doesn't like, I say, well, excuse me, what would you like me to say? If somebody criticizes me, I say, thank you for the information. I show up. I go to treatment centers. I go to jails. I go to places. I go to nursing homes. I show up. Yeah. And that's really, cool. and you're going to be criticized no matter what you do. Let's just face it. Let's all just face that. No matter what we do wrong. So just get used to it. Say thank you for the information and move on with your life.
I don't know if I can say that, Martha. Thank you for the invitation. I think I just have to say a couple more things with that. But yes, I do have to say thank you. I'm learning that along the road, that those things or those people come to kind of clean off the excess of like what you really want to tell them. So I get it.
One gal got all upset. She posted on Facebook in this one of these law of attraction groups, and she said, I can't believe what happened to me today. I met the meanest person. This man at the grocery store said to me, you'd be pretty if you'd lose some weight. Can you believe how mean he was to talk to me like that? And so, why would anyone do that? So these other people responded, oh dear, oh how terrible, oh how mean. And I said, it's very rare that a stranger will come up and just insult. My suspicions are that he really believed what he said to you, that you are a very pretty girl, and to him, you'd be prettier if you lost weight. How about just saying, you know what, thank you so much for the information. I'll think about it. Boom.
Yeah. 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 I'm learning that, Martha. I will tell you, I am so learning that. And I get people who give me too much information and they'll be like, so what do you do about that, Martha? Tell me about
You know,
that.
the good one, this is one that really gets me is just, it doesn't matter what you do as a parent, you're wrong. Somebody will always say, you're a bad mother, you're a bad father, whatever. So don't get
Mhm.
defensive. Just say, oh, well, that's interesting. What makes you say that? Because for one lady, you know what they told her? They said, well, you won't let your child have any candy.
Mhm.
Oh, uh-huh. And that makes me a bad parent. See, when
Right,
you
right.
get down to it, you find out usually things like, oh my goodness, they think that I'm too permissive or I'm too mean to my child or I don't pay enough
Right,
attention to
right,
my
right,
child. You think
right.
all these big things. And then it turns out you don't let your child have any candy.
Yeah,
Oh. Oh,
yeah,
thanks for the information. Appreciate
yeah,
it. And I know when they go
yeah.
to your house, they're getting
That's
bad.
my new thing too. Is oh, and
Yeah.
I do that. I do just what you do. Oh, and that kind of silence stuff. That kind of gets rid of that either the person or the question. It goes somewhere. And I'm loving what you're saying because I am being challenged with that now. You know, and in our journeys, and in our journeys, I'm finding also. Well, let me say my other journey, finding that people are mirrors
Mhm.
to what you need to kind of like handle. Is that something you've seen as well?
Two reasons people criticize. One is they want to feel better and bigger. They want to feel like, you
Right.
know what, I can
Okay.
help this person. They want to be helpful. The
Hmm.
second reason is because you're doing a whole lot better than they are and they're jealous. So
Martha, you might be right.
you don't, and you don't want to open a hornet's nest. I mean, either
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
still human beings, and they're trying to meet their needs the best way they can. So don't
yeah,
be
yeah,
defensive. Just oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'm glad I know that. Thanks for
yeah.
telling me that. I'll take it under advisement. Usually my worst students would come to me and they'd go, "You're an absolute in the middle of the classroom. You're a terrible teacher. I can't learn from you." Blah blah blah. And I'd say, "Well, hey, thanks for telling me, hun. Here's what I need from you. You need to write down exactly what I'm doing wrong and then write
Hmm.
what I do so that you'll learn because I'm a teacher. I want everybody to learn. And if I'm
Right,
doing
right,
something keeping you from learning, I need to know what it is. But I need you to write it down for me because I need
right.
time to think about it. How many letters did I
Mm,
get? Zero.
zero. Zero, 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 zero. I like that that example because it puts it back in other people's arena
Yeah.
to kind of okay, I gotta answer this now. I've said something derogatory. Now I gotta answer it. I gotta come up
Mhm.
with an answer, and usually they don't have an answer. It's just something that they're either feeling at that moment because they're frustrated, like you said, or they're just hey, they don't have nothing else to say, but they gotta say something. So
Exactly.
yeah, I find that people also, and maybe you can answer this, will ask you something, will ask you something and put you in a quandary about like, what do you think about this? Here's the scenario, or here's the story. What do you think?
Oh,
So
and
I
you know
just
what? Yeah,
go ahead.
and every time you give an answer, they come back with, well, blah, blah, blah. And then they have another excuse. So usually I'll go, oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I'll have to think about it longer because sometimes they're looking, I don't know, they're really not looking for an answer because then they're like, well, but then, except for, well, yeah, I could do that. And then they don't want a solution. They really just want
Yeah.
someone to listen. And here, let me give you another story. My son was like 10 and he went out off with his friend and the friend's father. They went shopping. So they come back and Anthony is in the house telling me about their adventure. And he was mad. Oh, he was so mad.
Hmm.
He bought his son a toy and he didn't buy anything for me. Well, being a
Hmm.
wonderful parent that I am, I had to straighten him out and say, well, what did you expect? You're not his son. And Anthony
Right.
turned to me and he goes, oh, he said, you know what? You don't understand. I'm never talking to you again. And I realized he didn't want a solution. He didn't want to be corrected. He had taken me out of his quality world. What he wanted was somebody to listen. So I said, I really apologize, Anthony. I wasn't listening. Please tell me again.
Yeah.
And he did. He told me again the whole thing, and it really made me mad and blah, blah, blah. And that's not fair. I said, boy, oh boy, sounds like you're really hurt and upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. I said, oh. And then he said, okay, I'm going out to play. That was it. All he wanted was somebody to acknowledge. Oh, I understand. Yeah, that must have been disappointing for you. Or yeah, I can see why you feel sad or hurt or mad. And then it was over.
Right. So I've had in my now experiences, because I feel that, and maybe you can answer this or share with what you think this is I've been moving to a next level or inwardly. I've been working a lot of inward work and kind of seeing myself in a different arena, in my spiritual part of my life, right? And so people will ask me questions like this, and they'll be doing something. And they'll say, "Hey, what do you think?" So I used to ask, "Do you want the coach Edna or do you want Edna?" The coach Edna. And then now I say, "Well, what would you do if you were this person or that person? How would you feel?" And I put it back into their laps, and I find that after I say, well, what would you do if this was you?
Yeah, that's exactly
and
it.
they have to think about it. And so then people start dropping off, like they ghost me, like they don't, I'm literally, people are literally leaving. I wouldn't say leaving me, but kind of drifting away. It's I don't know if it's a human behavior or what's going on there. But I think I'm doing a lot of shadow work, but I don't know what that is. So maybe you can share that with me in your experience of how you work.
It depends on who they are and what they're ready for. Edna, the problem is that we don't know people's backgrounds. Being in the recovery and addiction community, when people tell me some of their stories, it is just, you just want to lay down and cry. You just want to cry to suffering that some people have been through when they, as children. And we have to be really careful about giving advice. And, I'll give suggestions a lot of times. And there's a lot of times, what I tell. Well, and I cover a lot of this in my book. It's how to talk to your children, how to how to stay in control when you don't feel that way, how to keep your children behaving, but when they misbehave. But you're really, some people just plain aren't ready to talk about certain things. Bring it up, but they're not ready for suggestions and solutions, and they certainly they can't think deeply about it. So you could be in a position where you've approached a couple of people that they're like putting their toe in the water, but it's pretty scary. And when you say, well, what would you do or how would you handle it? Then they have to start thinking deeply about what happened to them, and they're not ready. That could be what's happening. Different things. They could have a lot of guilt.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. They're, as we don't like to address all the stuff. Like you said, we're not ready to address it because it's just too much and it's too hard. We're not all at the same level. And I feel very nervous and skeptical about giving advice. Because I don't know where they are. And that's why I asked them, what do you think you would do if you were in that position? If you're telling me something, well, what do you think? Why do you think this person said this to me? And I said, well, I don't really know because I'm not there. I could say something different because I'm different than you are. But I don't know.
You don't
maybe
know. They know the person. You have absolutely no idea. And that's why your question is exactly right on. Exactly right on. But see, what I'm also hearing, and this is just, I'm hearing they're looking to blame somebody. They're looking to put blame on that person.
Yes,
And
yes,
they
yes.
and well, why would they say that to me? And they're looking for you to affirm their blame, the blaming
Their
them.
blame. And that's what my daughter said. She goes, my daughter says that, Mom, they're looking for you to side with them. I was like, side
Yeah.
with them or what? First of all, I don't know what happened. Like, I just hear what is said, but I don't know the person that did it, and I don't know, that person that well, because I know that they're dealing with certain things. And when you're dealing with pain and, and trauma and all these things, it prevents you from being clear sometimes, and that's why you kind of need somebody to kind of back you. This is the right decision I
Mhm.
made. But when you ask yourself these questions, I know for me, when I was going through, when I had to ask myself, do you think that was a good idea? I know it wasn't a good idea. I
Well,
know it
and
wasn't a good
and when they
idea.
want someone to see, they aren't strong enough in themselves yet. And let me tell you another story. A few years ago,
That's good.
I was with a friend and I said, "Hey, so and so's having a barbecue. You want to go with me?" And she said,
Yeah,
"No, I'm never talking to him again." And I said,
right.
"Whoa, he's a pretty nice guy. What could he have possibly done?" I told
Yeah.
him a secret and he told somebody else. And I said, "Isn't that funny? He can't keep his own secrets. Why would you tell him one of yours?"
Good one. Good
She
one.
wanted to blame him, but he did. He had a
Yeah.
big mouth. He couldn't keep his own.
Yes, yeah, that's a good one. That is such a good one. Why would you tell somebody that can't even keep their own secrets your
Right.
secret, and
But
or tell them something and don't tell anybody else.
and
If they do-
my
if they tell you something,
stepdad,
yeah, if they tell you that don't tell you anything, then they say, no, they tell you, and you be like, okay, and
uh,
but they don't tell you, don't tell nobody else.
yeah.
And then you go
Well,
say, well, I told you. I said, but you didn't say anything else to anybody else. Some things I don't think are secrets. I just think they're
there you
just,
go. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they're secrets. I think they're just things. Like if you bought a dress at Macy's and you took it back, I don't think that's a secret.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a
yeah.
secret to me. I just don't.
Well, my
You
brother
know,
said, if you have a secret, don't tell anybody. Why would you
right?
tell it to anybody? It's a secret, and if it gets out, it's your fault. You're the one who
It's
told.
your fault. Exactly. Exactly. That is the truth, Martha. That is the truth. So tell me about why your mother loved your brother more.
Oh, we got all my life here, and sibling rivalry is mentioned in my book too. Yes, you can raise
Oh,
half.
well, we got to have you back for that. Yes. Yes. We got to have you back for that one.
Well, my mother was Italian, and the Italians love boys better. So I had two older brothers, and she loved them both better. But she really loved uh, the oldest brother. He's 7 years older than me, and now she loved us all the same. But I always looked at it this way. But he was very
Hmm.
intelligent. All my life, your brother's a genius. Blah 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 blah. Yes, mother. What am I? Chopped
Okay.
liver. You know,
Right.
so smart. And he legitimately is smart. When he was 10, he built a television. When he was 16, he took a car apart, put it back together. He had his own business all his life. He was an a mechanical engineer. I mean, he legitimately he is a genius. But so I had to, and you'll hear this a lot, sibling rivalry,
Mhm.
especially among athletes. They'll say that I had to do something to be better than my brother. I had to be better
Right.
at something. He
Yeah.
was such a great
It's
athlete. I had to
true.
be even better. And so sibling rivalry is not always a negative. And for me, it helped me really. I excelled at school. He was more
Hmm.
hands-on and I was more book learning. And I was talking to a woman on the treadmill. She's 70 and her daughter's 50. And she said her daughter still says to her, you always love my sister better. You do more for my sister. You this, you that. And I said, you know what? Let's both face it. If you have more than one child, you'll hear it till you die. But here's what you can say:
Yeah.
I'm not a robot. Yes,
Right.
I love you all the same in my own mind, but I love different aspects of you. So I'm
There
going
you
to
go. That's what I said.
tend
Yeah.
to other things. Your sister does this really well and I really like it, but you do this really well and I really like it. So if it
Right.
looks like I'm playing favorites, that's not how I see it. Now, if you want a robot, then if you wanted to live with a robot, you'd have a whole different upbringing, wouldn't you? If
Right.
you were a robot,
Yes.
if I was a spot, you'd have a whole different upbringing. So it's not that I love anybody more. It's that I see different aspects of you, and I love different things about each of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I told my kids, I loved each of you in a different in your strengths.
Yeah,
You
there
know,
you go.
one of my sons was more hands-on. He could build a shelf for me. My other
Uh,
son couldn't do that. You know, and my daughter probably could, but she wasn't willing to do it. So I would lean on him for a lot of the outside stuff, the labor part of the things. And my youngest son was he has a negotiation skill with people that
that's
he one time he went to buy this car, and it was like, I don't know, let's say, I don't remember the number, like $2,000.
mhm.
And he came back and he says, "Yeah, I got it for $600." And I traded him for what I knew, I knew somebody that he needed something, and we got that, and we traded that, and I got it for $600. I was
Wow.
like, I was like, what? He said, yeah. He's talking to me about something else. He needed something else for something else. He said, oh, I know a guy that's got that. And made the connection. And I got the car for $600. I was like, oh my gosh, how could he has such a great negotiation skill.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, I'm always looking to him to have those type of conversations. How do you do this? Da, 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 da. And I'm looking at, because he has that
Yeah.
full spectrum of things, And my daughter is just a great, she listens to me. I have a great adult daughter and mom relationship with her. She's such a great listener, and she just great. She'll give me some advice and then become my mother all of a sudden. So here you go.
That's a blessing. She has wisdom.
Yes. Yes. So now I want to get to the nitty gritty, because we've been chatting. This is easy stuff right now. Okay. What's the single biggest mistake people make when they try to change a habit?
They see the future. I hear so many people, and let's talk about the big ones: smoking, drinking, etc. There were, oh my God, I can't have another drink the rest of my life. Oh my God, how am I going to live without smoking? No, you're not. You don't have to. You know what? All you got to worry about is this minute. All you worry about is this minute, the next 5 minutes. Just today.
Yeah.
Just tell yourself, you know what? Today, I'm not going to have a donut today. Because if I thought to myself I could never eat another donut, please, I'd go get a box
do it
now. I'd go get a ram down my throat.
Get a whole box.
You don't worry about what you say is, you know what? But today, for 24 hours, I could do it. So you know what? I'm not going to do it today. And then tomorrow, I'll do it again. I'll work on it again. But all I'm worrying about now is today. People, and then they see the past does not equal the future. So if you had a bad upbringing, it doesn't mean that your future is going to be bad. And I tell people all the time, I give the example. I go to the treatment center every Wednesday and talk to people who are in treatment, and they're looking rough. And I say, I want you to realize this. People lived in concentration camps and got not a moment's warmth, tenderness, care. Constantly, people were wanting to kill them. But when they came out, many of them did not become drug addicts and alcoholics. The majority didn't. They went on to get jobs and create families and have good lives. Now, if they could come out of that and still be productive members of society, don't you think you can? They went through the ultimate. You got to stop with the woe is me, because everybody has suffered in some way. I've never met anyone. You know that old saying, Edna, about, everybody's told, okay, everybody in a room, put your problems in the middle of the room. Okay, now go and get somebody else's problems. No, everybody goes and picks back up their own problems. No, I don't want problems. I don't want, I whined and cried all my life. Oh, my mom loved my brother better, blah, 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 blah. There's men and et cetera, et cetera. Well, I know people, nobody ever beat me. Nobody ever hit me. My parents loved me. But I had played all these blame games and silly games. Well, who knows why? And, and then I talk to people nowadays, people whose parents were really horrible human beings to them, especially when they were drunk or one girl told me she would do drugs with her mother. In fact, she told me the story. Oh, is this a family show? I won't go further with that. Okay.
No, fine. Keep going.
Okay. Well, hers was her mother basically would sell her for drugs, but her mother wouldn't admit it. And she says,
Right.
I want my mother to admit it. I said, your mother can't admit it. Don't you realize what that means that she is as a mother?
Right.
You can't face that. She cannot face that. That shows true
Mm.
weakness on her part. She'll never admit it until she gets
Right.
help,
Right.
and maybe even then. So if you're
Right.
waiting for your mom to confess, she's
Hmm.
not certainly not ready, especially if she's still an active drug addict. So but then
Right.
she's using that as her excuse to continue to do drugs and play her little
Hmm.
games.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, the past
really
is not equal to the future. Just because you were mistreated in the past doesn't mean that you
that's
need
good.
to be a mistreater. And that whole thing, Ed, you've heard this a gazillion times. Hurt people hurt people. Okay, understand that, but don't stand around to be for the beating.
Right.
When someone you realize someone that doesn't have it together, you need to get yourself out of their orbit.
Right. Absolutely. That's a good listen. You just gave us some jewels. That one concentration camp clicked. It clicked. That is such a good analogy to give to someone. And hurt people. Yeah, no, you need to get out of the way.
And
That is really
that
good.
concept, that analogy, I gave that at the treatment center, I don't know, just about 3 weeks ago. One young man came up to me and he goes, I'm a Jew. What you just said really hit me, really got to
Hmm.
me. That example
Yeah.
was exactly right for me. Wow.
Yeah, wow, that's good. That's good. That's really good. So what we're going to talk about some shadow behavior now. I know you do a lot of that. So what small act of self-sabotage um like procrastination maybe or overscheduling is in somebody's mind that this makes their biggest fear or their biggest problem?
Well, let's see. You go to the grocery store and you buy a bunch of candy and you're on a diet. Those are little sabotages. If you, oh,
Yes.
I just gave a presentation at the Women's Expo in Novi, Michigan, and it was
Okay.
about how to say no without guilt. And I had a
Right.
woman come to me and she goes, and she was like 50 years old. She said, I can't say
Hmm.
no. I just can't. And you know where that comes from, Edna, is kids. So yes, we overschedule ourselves because we're weak, because we're afraid that people will
Yeah.
not like us if we say no.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have to get strong and say, you know what? I don't have to be liked by everybody. Life goes on. But that's a
That's it.
process. And you know this, Edna, it's a process. You have to say
Yeah.
no to one person and then realize it's not the outcome, it's
Yeah.
the action. So
Yeah.
don't if someone gets mad at you because you said no, you're still successful. You
Right.
said no. You said
Right.
no, and you
Right.
did not have that time taken away from you, money,
Right.
whatever it is you asked for.
Exactly.
You said
Exactly. Yeah.
no.
That's it. That I think that the biggest piece that you said is that people please when you please people is because you want their approval. You want to make them happy. And the only reason why you keep saying it is because you want them to like you
Mm-hmm.
and or them to accept you. And people will say, no, that's not it. You got to be. I remember in a conference, I'm I'm talking about saying no with a
Mm-hmm.
period. I have a book that's called No Period. It's a
Wow.
guide to people pleasing. Okay, no period, right? And I had to learn. I was saying no, but I had a comma, and the
Uh,
comma was explaining why
uh,
I said no, and it
right.
gave them a foot in, like the comma. It gave them a
Yeah,
foot in to change my mind.
exactly.
So I finally said it's no period. And I remember this woman, I was giving the talk, she literally, as soon as I said that, you gotta be kind. I mean, I was speaking. I've never had this before. You gotta be kind to people. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I said, well, you didn't ask me the question. Believe whoever asked me the question, but I said, okay, so yes, being kind is something that you should be doing. But when it comes to you sacrificing yourself and
Mhm.
you are losing,
Mhm.
that's not kindness.
That's
That's
right.
self. Denial.
Mm-hmm.
You're denying yourself of everything, and you're putting yourself out there. I said, so it's not being kind when you're not kind to yourself, because you can't show something that you don't have. Because I'm telling you, you give all the kindness away, guess what happens? You have none for yourself. And then pretty
Mm-hmm.
soon you won't have any for anybody else. So I remember that so distinctly when you said that, you know, and then she was shocked. She was like, she had to sit back and like, and I said, I'd never had that, but before anybody, I said, so I'm guessing what I said kind of irritated you. Because what I was answering, and I'll tell you, is a woman said to me, I have this business. I know that it can grow further, but it just doesn't. And I said, well, what do you think you're doing? She said, I think I'm giving too much to people, and then they give me what they want to give me, and I don't make any money. So I was like, okay. And I said, then she said to me, and plus I'm a nonprofit. I said, what does that got to do with it? I said, that's a tax issue. That's not a money issue. It's a tax issue. So she says, what do you mean? I said, you're thinking that taxes, being nonprofit, you don't get paid. I said, but remember that the organization Catholic Charities? Do you remember the archdiocese? They was like, I said, how much money do you think they have? Millions,
Mm-hmm.
millions. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, so I said, you doing that and thinking that you have, you're nonprofit, you're doing that and you're putting a cap on yourself, you're limiting yourself. So that's what's happening, because you're pleasing people. Because where would that come from?
Mm-hmm.
IRS don't care. As long as you pay their taxes, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, wow, I never knew that phrase was keeping me from not growing. Yes, it is.
Wow. And let's
Mhm.
take this full circle. She was
Yeah.
criticizing you because you weren't kind. And in
Yeah.
actuality, it was her. So that was one of her weaknesses. And that's why she had
Yes.
to lash out with the
Yes.
criticism. And it had you taken it as a criticism, it, none of this would have been exposed and revealed.
Right.
Yeah.
And she really took it as a criticism. I was just saying, no, you have to be, you got to say no with a period, because if you start people pleasing, it hurts your business. It really impedes your business, because and I know you might believe this too, Martha, is your business and you, or your workplace and you, cannot be separate,
Mhm.
because wherever you go, you are with you.
Right.
So whatever is going wrong with you is going to where you're going. It doesn't matter. So, in the business world, and you know this too, is people believe that oh no, I can put on a different hat when I go over there. I said, no, you can't, because definitely something's going wrong at home. Try as you
Mm-hmm.
may, you take it right to work, or try as you may, you take it right to your business. It comes right out.
Yeah. Just like you
That's
said,
behavior.
wherever you
Mm-hmm.
go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes, yes. So let's jump right into the last part of this, is the recovery mindset. You deal with recovery in a raw environment all the time. What core behavior or behavior principle that works for someone battling substance abuse can be immediately applied when they struggle?
Well, one day at a time, they have got to think that. But a
I
lot of
knew
people
this.
don't realize that ego goes two ways. They always think that someone with a high
Yeah,
ego thinks too much of themselves, but in
yeah.
actuality, a lot of people, they're stuck in ego and me because they think so lowly of themselves. One woman at the
Oh,
jail, Edna, she said to me, "Why would God forgive me if he won't forgive the devil?" Now, right there, please, who compares themselves to the devil? All right, it's an ego problem. What could this woman have
yes,
possibly done? But see, it's an ego problem. I'm so low. I'm such a POS, piece of
right.
dog
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
I'm no good. It's all ego. It's all me, 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 me,
yeah.
me. If all you can think
Right,
about is you and your sins and what you did wrong, you're stuck.
right.
You're stuck in the bondage of self. And see, that's where a
Yeah.
lot of people come in to recovery and things like that because they're
Hmm.
bondage of self. All they think about is how does this affect me? How does this affect me? And I always give the example. I'll give you two examples. One is the dog
Hmm.
has go out. Now there are 3 people that live in this house, and the dog has to go out.
Mhm.
And he always comes to get me. What am I, the toilet attendant? So, and I think to myself, boy, I'm really this annoys me. The dog. I got to take the dog out. Nah, nah, nah. Well, guess what? You're helping the dog. The dog needs you. So you're annoyed. Why? The dog needs you. So be annoyed, keep your big mouth shut, and go help that dog. That's your duty
Right.
as a human being to another living
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
One day, and I get aggravated all the time for everything. So one day I'm washing, and my husband and son, they do not leave a mess. They'll leave maybe 1 dish, 2 dishes, and they'll come back
Mhm.
and do it later. Well, one day I'm washing a couple of dishes, and I'm all aggravated, like, somebody left a dish in
Right.
here, just being ridiculous. And I look out the window, and my brother's mowing the lawn, and my son's on a ladder cleaning the gutters. And I thought, there you go, Martha. Do you want to mow the lawn and clean the gutters? No. Wash the dishes and shut your mouth. Because, and that's what we do as addicts is we see everything in terms of how it affects us. Me, 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 me. Am I the only
Right.
person out here, and especially women, am I the only person out here that does any work? Blah, blah, blah. And for some women, that's true. Let's face it.
Right.
For some women, that's true.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, if that's true, stop flapping your jaws and start. You put up notes. Trash needs to be out by 7 p.m. If not, you owe me $5. Stop flapping your jaws. Start acting. Instead of yelling across the room, stop running. Get up and go touch the child, look them right in the eye and say, we walk in the house. If you want to run, go outside. And when they run again, you go, I see you decided to go outside. Get up. Don't get mad. Don't yell at them. Just say, I see you decided. Look, oh, no, I changed my mind. Yeah, well, I haven't. So you're out for the next, however long, 10 minutes, whatever,
Right.
because there has to be a consequence. It's not a punishment. It's a consequence. But if you don't get up, the dog one time, the dog, I was eating dinner, lunch, and the dog put his paws up on the counter. And I said, get down. And he looked at me like, yeah, get up and make me. And because that's exactly, he knew I wasn't going to get up. He knew I wasn't. He did not get down. But the minute when I did get up, his little paws got down on the floor.
Yeah.
So action. Not mean act. You don't have to be mean. Just,
Right.
I
Consistent.
see consistent. Yeah. And act.
That's good. That's it. That's good. Martha, this has been a masterclass understanding ourselves. We've had a great talk. Thank you. Thank you, Martha.
Oh, thank
For
you.
our listeners who are ready to stop cycling through some of this negative patterns and learn how to truly rewire your behavior, this is how you can connect to this young lady here. All right. She is at facebook.com, Martha Burich, Burich, parenting. Got to find her. All right. Because get there, get your consult, get it right. She's got all the words and all the things you need. If this episode has helped you see your own habits and patterns with new clarity, please like, subscribe, and share this episode. And to my esteemed guest Martha, truly, you kept it real and on purpose. And we need to spread this insight. You'll be back to talk about your book, Sibling Rivalry, because I know I want to hear that. And we all need to hear that. Till next time, keep it real on purpose. Bye for now.
Thanks, Edna.